when I look at a lot of Irish channels now, it's like every channel is talking in every video about mass immigration. Now, I'm not saying that's not an important subject. It is. It's just something I just don't want to be doing all the time. I want to kind of, when I came back and decided to take a different approach with this channel, I just want to mix things up a bit and just try to make it more interesting, at least more interesting for me. If I was continually talking about the one subject all the time on this channel, I would just lose interest in it very quickly and just pack the whole thing in. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be talking about immigration on every single video. I just find it boring. If I have something to say on subjects like that, I will say it maybe over a couple of essays, but then just move on. I just don't like to repeat myself, and I just don't see the point. Sometimes then I might come back to a subject again. So now my 4 essays that I will be presenting to you on the Ireland-Israel subject, they were essays that were written over the last few months, and I just refrained from publishing them, but I'm just going to be doing that pretty quickly now, once I get this one out of the way. The idea for this essay just came out of how, as a child, my interest in music developed. What I talk about in this essay is, about the current state of music and why music has become so, bland, uninteresting. And so that's kind of really the theme of this essay. So today's video, or today's essay, is called Video Killed the Radio Star. Enough said. Video killed the radio star. That's how the song goes. And of course, it probably did. That is the nature of technology. One technical advance seems to make a previous one redundant, and where previously there seemed to be no need for a given new tech, a need for it gets created in the process. Did we need the internet 30 or 40 years ago? I'm not sure. It's hard to need something that doesn't exist. But then, once we have it, we don't want to go back, as the leap forward can bring so many advantages. When I was a young boy, I did not see the need for any kind of visuals to accompany music. I just wanted to enjoy the listening experience, read through the sleeve notes and look at the artwork and photographs on the vinyl packaging. They were all the visuals I needed. I remember being fascinated with one particular concert photo of Elton John, somewhere on the artwork of an album of his we had. It was of him at Dodger Stadium, taken in 1975, with a sea of people in the background. I'd never seen so many people in my short life and was amazed that one could have a concert with so big an audience. It was completely foreign to me. When I recently saw the Rocket Man biopic, it brought back to me the memory of that album sleeve photo, as this event was depicted in the movie. Now, visuals and video have become a requirement to get your song across. Maybe this is because music has dropped now to such a low standard that it needs all the help it can get to shift product. I sometimes liken the current state of music to a form of indoctrination. What I mean is that people have become so used to the corporatized lowest common denominator and hear so much of that music that they have accepted it as the new standard, as no alternative is presented to them. Media for the most part now is controlled by corporations, and only their approved artists have access. This is the reason why you hear the same song playlists, regardless of what radio station you tune into. It's also how political indoctrination works, or any other kind for that matter. You alienate your listener or audience from any alternative point of view, and over the course of time they cannot see any other viewpoint, or have any desire to seek one out. Getting back to lyrics, they are plucked from the lower hanging fruit on the rhyming tree. But let's not worry about that, because that can be compensated for by investing $100,000 in a video, which in effect replaces the visualization process once exclusive to the listener. I remember a music teacher of mine once talking about the images and visuals one sees and experiences while listening to music that one is captivated by. A classmate of mine inquired what those images were, much to the chagrin of that teacher. But I got that concept straight away. The visual experience buried in the art of listening. Video production seems to have stolen that experience from the listener and presents a preconceived story to him or her instead. There seems to be no room left now for the listener's involvement. I think that the best music videos are those where you see the artist perform, rather than have a story imposed upon you for this very reason. This leaves scope for me, or you, as a listener to experience the song in my or your own unique way, just as I did as a young boy with headphones on, listening to my older siblings' records. When they were out, I would go into their room and put the ABBA Arrival album on and get lost in the soundscape of it all, as I stared at album photos of them sitting in that helicopter, wondering what it was like to fly in such a contraption. For me, at the time, Knowing Me, Knowing You was the standout song. On headphones, I would hear the voices answer one another, panning from one ear to the other. Go and listen to it. You'll hear what I mean. How do they do that, I would wonder? How is the vocal coming out of one headphone and then coming out the other? I would ask myself these questions, but there was no internet to answer me in those days. It was all amazing to me at that time and was my first experience of what record production could be. There was something innovative about the ABBA records that seemed to be lacking in others. They all seemed a little flat sounding, but ABBA gave you the immersive 3D experience. It was like silk caressing your ears. Music technology has come a long way since then, maybe too long a way. The mystery has now been removed with one being able to record an album on your laptop, if you wanted to, and have the other equipment to go along with that. Recording has become portable, more convenient and less expensive. Somehow, though, the art of it all seems to have been lost. It's too easy and frictionless, with little innovation in the recording process. It all seems to have flatlined. It all sounds the same. The same sounds, the same styles, the same lyrics. Need a piano? Just use a sample library. Drums? The same. How about guitar? No problem. Just use another sample library for that also, where every guitar is perfectly in tune. That there, of course, is the problem. Because if you know anything about music or musical instruments, especially ones like the guitar, you will know that inherent to the instrument is its inability to be perfectly in tune, and that is what creates the magic. It's the reason why everything sounds the same now, with those who have mediocre skills, all reaching for those same libraries for their sounds, to make up for their lack of hours put in to understand the art of the microphone, its placement, its position in relation to an imperfect instrument, and the choice of mic for that particular instrument. And songs? Well, songs are written to a formula by a group of 7 or 8 people sat in a room. So you don't know who you're really listening to anymore. It's also watered down. When I listened to Bob Dylan, ABBA, or Prince, I knew what I was getting. All the hours put in to craft their unique style and sound. Now, if I turn on the radio, I don't really, by the way, but if I did, what am I getting? One song blends seamlessly into another, and nothing of consequence stands out or differentiates itself. It all sounds the same. The vocals sound the same. It's all so boringly cliched and passé. The art of the artist has been lost. And what we have been left with is non-artists writing for their audience rather than for themselves. They are individuals who try to project themselves into the minds of their perceived potential audience and ask themselves, what kind of song can I manufacture so as to please or entice this or that person? This, of course, is not artistic expression at all. It is the musical equivalent of the Big Mac or the Whopper. A truly innovative artist never asks such questions. Dylan or ABBA never used such a process. They just created for themselves, and in that creative process, developed their own unique style, something that made them stand out from the crowd. This is what attracted people to them, the work itself. They, as artists, led their audience to new territories. Their audience followed them, not the other way around. Now, there is no Prince, no Michael Jackson, and no way back, it seems. Image and TikTok seem to be the main criteria one needs to get noticed. It is shallow and predictable, and it's why such acts last 6 to 12 months and then they're gone, only to be replaced by a cardboard cutout replica. The depth is not there. I remember one time in the late 90s walking through a shopping mall in London with Mark, a friend of mine who lives there, and the opening piano riff of The Winner Takes It All cut out clearly through the loudspeakers as we passed a music store. My friend turned to me and said, "I've just realized what a great song that is." And in saying that, he made me realize that also. Yes, it was a great song. The evidence was captured right there in the work. When I was a child, I recall us having an old Philips radio with 2 dials, one on each end. It was a little too high up for me to reach, but I would stare up to the shelf that it sat on when it was all lit up, with all those exotic place names printed across the fascia. Warsaw, Berlin, Prague, Athens. I would wonder about all those places as I listened to the static and the faint sound of foreign languages that would drift in and out over the airwaves. As I got a little bit older and bigger, I could stand on a chair and reach up to this mysterious device that was like a window to the outside world that I knew little of at that age. As I turned the tuning dial, the needle would move back and forth, and I would carefully search for some new music, and occasionally I would find some. I would do that a lot, randomly, reaching out to the world. It required effort in those days. There was no YouTube and no notifications. The technology was simpler then. Life was simpler then also. But the art was fantastic.